Hi guys, Aceface back with another video for Twisted Dice, and I'm back with some more Tyranid content. So it's been a bit quiet over the last few weeks, and apologies, I've had a lot going on in my personal life, and a big apologies that I've let you down with a couple of weeks off videos. But I'm back and we've got some stuff to talk about. So I've got a couple of videos coming up for you. Today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the points changes for Tyranids and what it means competitively and casually to your army list. Does it make a difference? Is it going to really change the game for us, Tyranid players? And then in the second video that will come next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about the missions and how that is going to have an impact on how we play and choose our secondaries. So hopefully these videos will be useful for you. There's a lot of content out there that already talks about these, but I'll definitely give you my spin on what I think of the points changes. If you do enjoy the video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It helps us out absolutely tons, and make sure you give us a big old thumbs up. And what's really interesting is to read your comments. So let us know what you think of the points changes. Does it make a big difference to your lists? Is it a game changer? So let's start off. So there wasn't that many points changes for Tyranids. We only got a very small handful, which was a bit of a shame. I think there was an opportunity there to bring a few more Tyranid units into the fold. But what they seem to have done is they seem to have focused on the perceived, big highlighted units that we tend to know and are used to seeing on the competitive scene, even if it's units that we've not seen for a while. And I'll explain more about that as we go through. So I think first of all, let's face in and deal with the elephant in the room, which is the Dimicaron, or I heard someone use the phrase Dimicaron. I can't take that seriously. Just makes me hungry. Just think about a macaron. Anyway, so I'm going to call it Dimicaron, so apologies if that's not the wrong way, but that's the way I've always pronounced the name. But anyway, the Dimicaron, I jest just because I know that people are going to go crazy in the comments around the pronunciation, because it always triggers people. So we've got the video rolling in the right way. So anyway, the Dimicaron, so he went up in points. I'm actually really not too bothered with that. I'm a little bit against the whole kind of just jump on the bandwagon and take the same list everyone's taking. What is perceived to be the double Dimicaron list is really good, but it's a little bit two-dimensional, and it has quite a lot of counters. It is quite fun to play, but I definitely wouldn't fall into the trap of that being the only competitive Tyranid build. There's a few good players that have taken it and had some success with it, but please don't be closed-minded to think that's the only good unit and the only good build. It does work well, and just that pressure, using the cap system to really drive your opponents back and put them under that initial pressure with the Dimicarons, is a really good way of playing, and it is a lot of fun. But it's not the only way. So I think the points changes for the Dimicaron to bring it up to probably a little bit more of a reasonable points value. He was a little bit too cheap, probably. Seems about right. I think you can still take 1 and even 2 and even 3 if you really want to, and it's still being a well worthwhile pointed unit for your army. His amount of wounds, his toughness, survivability and damage output, I think means that that's not a terrible points increase. Yeah, we never want our best units to get points increases, but it's probably fair. So I think we'll still see him play in competitive lists, but maybe when people have worked out that he's the most cost efficient unit, maybe it'll make people think a bit differently. So there you go. So moving on, and this kind of almost like totally contradicts the last comment, which is the Swarmlord being reduced in points. Now, you very rarely saw the Dimicarons on the board without the Swarmlord, and the Swarmlord went down by 30, the Dimicaron went up by 25. So, straight away, if you just take 1 Dimicaron and the Swarmlord, you've actually saved yourself 5 points. So there's that straight away. For my mind, actually preferred just taking one, so it kind of suits my build anyway. If you're going to take two, yes, you're going to pay, you're going to pay 20 points, but 20 points extra, but still, I think, it's still not a bad thing. And that makes the Swarmlord, a unit that was already seeing so much play, even more viable. So you're going to see the Swarmlord in an awful lot of lists, even more than you've ever had before. He's just a great unit, gives you some hard-hitting combat ability, some great buffs, some good psychic ability. So I think, it's great for us. Makes a strong unit even stronger, so that's only can be a win-win. And if you're going to find a way to obviously use him and then not use the Dimicarons, then you've just saved yourself a nice little chunk of points. So moving on from the Swarmlord, one of the big kind of headline points changes was the Jeansteelers. So the Jeansteelers now went to 13 points from 15 points, which I think is a fantastic change. I still don't think that we should all be jumping out and getting our 8th edition Swarmlord Jeanstealer lists out. Let's move on, guys. Let's wake up and go, hang on a minute, we don't need to take the same list all the time. There is more strength and depth in that book than you would believe if you're just prepared to open your mind and try things out. So please don't just jump on board and grab that list out again. Yes, it is now more viable than it was at the beginning of 8th edition, and yes, Jeansteelers are now a little bit more playable, but there are other routes to go, and I still think that a predominantly shooting Tyranid list is the way to go. What it does give you the option of playing, in my mind, is the ability to take smaller units of Jeansteelers, using them very much to kind of grab objectives. They're super quick. They can clear out small units and do a little bit of damage. If you think like Dukkari, little MSU units, a nice hidden unit of Jeansteelers, small one, can run in there and deal with a unit of Dukkari pretty quick, and any other T3 kind of weak unit relatively quickly. They're a good troops choice, and at 13 points a model, they now become a little bit more viable. I still don't think they're kind of top choice, but you definitely can play them a little bit. And if you want to take a big juicy unit, you know that it's not going to completely kill all your points in one go. So it's not a terrible thing. So there is pretty much two other changes, one of three other changes, but the next change is the Tervagan. I've been kind of, playing around with the idea of bringing the Tervagan back. I had a lot of fun with him in 8th edition. He's not, when you really look at the points, still not super efficient for what he does, but if you want to play a bit of a hoardy feel, you want to play a bit defensive, you still can have a play. There is ways to make him obviously pretty survivable. It's nice to have the toughness 8, and if you're taking a lot of termagants, then he's got play there. You can take big units of termagants, make them a little bit better. I don't think he's terrible, so the points decrease on him definitely makes him a bit more playable, and makes him worth considering. I still think that it's not enough points, and his rules and just data slate on its own is not quite strong enough to be potentially, really up there with our best units, but definitely a playable option and something worth having a play with and seeing how you get on. The next change is the Trigon Prime. And the Trigon Prime got a small point decrease, which puts him a little bit more in line with the Trigon. Ultimately, I've tried a list with these, tail end of 8th edition. In fact, no, I tried it at the beginning of 9th edition. And yeah, you can have fun with these guys. You can just kind of saturate the board with cheap big monsters, pop them up, put a lot of pressure on your opponent. It can work. Unfortunately, no invulnerable save unless you kind of spend your relics or your physiology to make him have an invuln save. Other than that, he's not got an invuln save. He's not particularly tough. With the weaponry that's out there, he'll pop up and he'll die relatively quickly. So I'm still not sure that he's the greatest choice, but he does give you the ability to maybe bring other units in via the tunnel. There's some play there, but ultimately I still think he's an also sort of unit, one that you might squeeze in there if you really love the unit. I mean, the model is insanely beautiful, so I wouldn't blame you if you took it, but it's still kind of just an average unit, I would suggest. Okay, and then the last thing is we did get a reduction on the points cost for venom cannons on sporocysts. It's pretty a moot point, but it has the ability to do damage, so it's never a bad thing. So that's overall the points decreases for Tyranids. Overall, some good stuff. Definitely some missed opportunities. And as we're kind of hearing more and more bits and pieces coming out of Games Workshop, it looks unfortunately like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer than I'd hoped for a Tyranid Codex. But at the same time, putting my positive hat on, you know, the more time that elapses, the more the meta stabilizes, and then Tyranids can come into that and really run amok and have some great updates and be a really good army. You know, things that come out now, potentially if they're too powerful, then they're going to get neutered really quickly, and if they're not, then they're going to find that the power going up in every codex puts them down a tier quite quickly. So I'd rather Games Workshop really work on Tyranids, make sure we get a fantastic new codex, hopefully some new units, some new models, and it's going to be well worth the wait. So for now, I'll take these points decreases as a real plus. I'll keep theory crafting, and then in next video we'll look at how we can start to think about the secondaries a little bit differently. Has it changed our kind of philosophy for army build and tactics? But until the next video, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.